RealAg Live, everybody. I'm your host, Shaun Haney. Thanks a lot for tuning in today on this U.S. Thanksgiving. We're super jealous. Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday of the year. Watching all of our American friends today get to dive into that turkey, the cranberry sauce, and have all that fun. Up in Canada, just a regular old day, and so we are broadcasting today, and I'm really looking forward to the discussion today with our farmer guest. If you want to participate in the discussion, all you have to do is enter your comment or question in the comment box, whether you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, or Twitch. And for every comment that we read, guess what? You get a Real Agriculture hat. So it's out of reach. Oh, hold on, I'll grab it. There you go. These hats. So I'm giving away these hats. If we read your question or comment, we will send you one in the mail. So hopefully we're going to have lots of interaction today. There's lots of cool stuff to chat with our guest today, and it is Gunter Jochum, based out of Manitoba. Hey, Gunter, how are you?
Pretty good, Shaun. How are you?
Pretty good. Well, hey, listen here. We've already got people chiming in saying, hello, Grandpa. That was Jeft Bennett. He's
Yeah, he's a little keen on that comment because I'm not a grandpa yet, but soon.
yeah.
And it's not das Grandpa, it's der Grandpa. Der, as in DER.
There
Let's
you
keep the
go.
German real.
Yeah, exactly. Lyndsey wants to know, who's your favorite Real Ag personality and why is it her?
Because Crystal and I went to Quebec to drop our daughter off a few years ago. I think just when Lyndsey had moved to Ottawa. And we met up with Lyndsey, and I think she bought me an ice cream. That's why she's my favorite.
She did. She just told me that story about 10 minutes ago, so I can verify that's exactly what happened. So, hey, Gunter, tell us about your farm.
Our farm, right. It's we're about 10 miles west of Winnipeg, maybe a little further, about 20 kilometers from the perimeter, the west perimeter.
Yeah.
And we're a grain farm. But over the years, we've been not only a grain farm. Started out as a grain farm when my parents came over from Germany in 1980. A little 800-acre grain farm, and it expanded. We expanded pretty quickly to about 2,000 acres, and then 2,800 acres. And then in 1984, when my brother graduated, my younger brother graduated from high school, he didn't want to do post-secondary education. We happened to have a chance to buy a quarter section that had a hog barn on it. So he was going to hog farm. So we then went into hogs. You know, the mid 80s right through the mid 90s, agriculture was having a real tough time. You had to diversify and all this. So we had done the livestock diversification. Then we tried Christmas trees for about 6 months. Yeah, that did not last. We planted them, never harvested them. So I have about an acre and a half of Christmas trees out in the back 40 here. And
it's like a life supply.
I know. They're massive right now because that was a long time ago. And that same year, we actually started strawberries as well. You pick strawberries. So we've done it all. Wow. In 97, we moved out of the hogs. In 2011, Mother Nature decided it was time for us to quit the strawberries, and now we're just back into regular old grain farming.
Okay, so
that was the 30-second version.
Okay, so Brian Voth asked a question here, and I want to hear this story. I know I've heard it before, but I think it is just so interesting. What was the main reason your parents chose to move to Canada out of Germany?
That's a good question. I think I know the answer. The thing is, I've always wanted to farm. I always knew I was going to be a farmer from my earliest childhood memories. My very earliest memory is 1968. I was 3 years old. My dad had bought this new tractor. My aunt and uncle were over for Sunday coffee, and we had to all go out and look at this new tractor. And I was just fascinated by the tractor. Didn't want to get off of it. Didn't want to go back in the house. I just wanted to be on a tractor. And my dad was a diehard farmer in Germany, and we had a good sized farm where we came from in Bavaria, southern Germany,
Okay.
and um, it it wasn't large enough. It was about 100 hectares, so about 250 acres, but I think 90% of it was rented. So it was very, very hard to get into owning the land base that you needed. And so a large portion of it was with one landlord. And he actually, just before we came, he actually rented his portion, like his farm, to another farmer. And so it was a good decision that Dad made to move to Canada. But it was because us kids had a real interest in farming early on. And he said, if all my kids are interested in farming, we can't do it in Germany where we were from.
So what was that process like? Did he come over multiple times and check out different geographies, or did he just land in Winnipeg and said, "This is where I'm planting the flag"?
No, it wasn't quite like that. He did come over a couple times. Let's back up to 1975. We had our first trainee from Florida, from the US, and a girl, and she came over I think in June, and she was going to stay on our farm and work on our farm for about 6 to 8 weeks. I can't quite remember. I was only 10, but that piqued my dad's interest, in farming in America, and really wanted to go to America. And we had after her, we had three or four more trainees from the States. And so the interest just grew. And then one of those trainees helped us to write to Ag Canada and say, hey, we're interested to coming to Canada to farm. And so we got a response. And in 1979, Dad came to Ontario because we figured, well, Ontario is a good place to be. Looked around, was right away, he kind of figured, geez, that's a lot like Germany. A lot of people, already regulations, municipal regulations, have to be careful. Other people telling you what to do as far as farming and whatnot. And then uh, the real estate person said, hey, we got farms in Manitoba too, and Saskatchewan and across the prairies. And Dad said, well, Manitoba, where's that? Okay, just west. So on the second last day before he had to fly home, he flew to Manitoba and got to Manitoba, and they were just in the middle of a flood themselves. It was the end of May, and they hadn't turned a wheel here. They had not seeded an acre. And he's looking around and going, well, this is just stupid. That'll never work. How can you not have your crop planted at the end of May, first week of June? How are you going to harvest anything? And they said, the real estate agent and the farmer said, oh no, this is no problem. We do it all the time.
Oh,
And he said, well, if you guys can pull this off, I'm going to come back in September and see if you're anywhere close to harvest. So he came back in September of 79. He brought my sister at that time because she had some reservations as to moving to Canada. Really, me dropping all my friends. She was 15 at the time. My mom wasn't really, not really keen. It was my dad and my brother and I who were really keen on moving. And so he came back in September, and sure enough, combines rolling everywhere, and the crop was decent. It
yeah.
wasn't a huge bumper crop, but he said if you can grow a crop in 90 days and pull it off, and it's flat as a pancake here, there's not too many stones right here around Winnipeg. That's exactly what he wanted. It wasn't flat in Germany where we came from, and let me tell you about stone picking. I did my fair share of stone picking. So he was sold. Yeah, he said we have to move.
Hmm.
Get a load of this. My dad was 42, my mom 41 when he decided to make that uh, like life changing
Yeah.
decision. Huge. I said to Crystal when we were 42, the year I turned 42, woke up on my birthday, I rolled over, I said, "Hey, Crystal, let's sell the farm. Let's move to a country where we don't speak the language and start farming there. What do you think?" She thought I was completely nuts, but that's what my parents did, right?
It's courageous, like and there's economic reasons and there's personal reasons, but it would take a lot to just sort of pack up and say, we're doing this. It's only 8 time zones
Yeah.
away. Like, what, we can do
Yeah.
this. And it's like this land, seeing Canada as this land of opportunity. I think it's very,
Yeah.
very cool. And there's a lot of families that have similar kinds of stories in different decades of looking at Canadian agriculture as a way to make their life better. And
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
appreciate you sharing
It
that with us. Go ahead.
it it was quite something because it was a one-way ticket. Like there's some really well-to-do farmers come from Europe, come here. My parents weren't that. We were enough. We had enough to buy a farm. 500 acres, mortgaged another 200, 300 acres, and we started out from there. Like if it wasn't going to work, we were going to lose the farm. My dad would have had to look for a job.
It was a gamble. Big
It
gamble.
was a gamble, big gamble. Yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
That's
But he loved farming, and he has always been a go getter. And so he said, "Yeah, hey, let's. I'm going to stick my neck out. It's okay. We can do this. We can do this." Always an optimist, right? Yeah,
well, you got to be in farming, Gunter. Yeah, like,
yeah,
come on.
absolutely, for
Okay, so
sure.
now it's you and your wife Crystal, and then is Fiona on
Four
the farm?
girls.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So Fiona decided 3 years ago. I think it was 3 years ago. She quit a very good job with Corteva, and she said, "Dad, I'm come back to the farm. I want to farm." And our family, just like my dad, has never persuaded any of us to farm, and here's a kicker: has never dissuaded anyone from
Hmm.
farming. Has never said, "No, don't you ever farm." Never, never, never. Right? It's always been, yeah, he's farmed. He loved farming, and he put tons of hours in. There's lots of stress, lots of good times, and that's how that's how Crystal and I live our farming life as well.
Hmm.
It's always been like that. Yeah.
So here's a question for you from Janine. She asks, would you still pick Canada in hindsight, or do you think there might have been other countries you would consider?
Initially, my dad figured the States would be a good place to go. But at the time in the mid 70s and late 70s, that there was no way to immigrate into the US. Their policies didn't allow for it. We had considered South America and down there, Argentina, more so than Brazil.
Hmm.
But it was just a little bit too corrupt. So my dad realized that pretty quick that South America was not a good place.
And there
And
is a lot of German families that are farming in South America, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I that's what I hear. I've never been. My parents have been once on a farm tour. Loved it. They said it's amazing. But yeah, we never went there. And then Canada was the option. And honestly, right now, yes, we would come to Canada again. It's a land of opportunity, still to this day.
Your
I
dad
strongly believe that.
your dad was quite strategic too. He visited in May and he visited in September, and he
Yep,
avoided like December through March, which was quite smart.
absolutely.
If you're going to convince the family to move to Canada, look, the weather's beautiful. It's gorgeous
Yeah,
here, everybody. Look
it's
around.
amazing. 8 months of frozen tundra. Yeah, That was that first year. Like it was an eye opener, right? It like we always had snow in Germany where I grew up, and we did lots of skiing, and we lived right on the edge of a valley. And so us kids in our little village, 11 houses in our village, and the kids would always get together after school, and we'd run down to the valley and then go sledding there and skiing and stuff. So it was great fun,
Yeah.
but and lots of snow, but nothing like the cold here, right? It would get to minus 15 or whatever, but not minus 25, minus 30
Mm.
for weeks on end.
Yeah. Well, and I feel very lucky that I actually went to Germany with you on one of your trips back there. We were both on the same trip with Bayer before they shed their Invigor asset to BSF before the merger. They celebrated, it was 20 years of Invigor, right? Is that right? It wasn't 25, it was 20.
Right.
It was
That's right.
they celebrated 20 years of Invigor in Germany, and we were on that trip together along with a number of other Canadian farmers across the prairies, and got a chance to spend. We were gone for what, 10 days?
I
It was
think
a lot
10
of
days,
fun.
something like
It
that.
was a lot of
It
fun.
was great. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good trip. And we were in an area of Germany that I was not from. So
And
yeah, I'm from the south. I'm from. Are you ready? I don't know. Is this
go
allowed to
ahead.
say that?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
We were from the Quebec of Germany. Well, yeah. Hear me out.
Go ahead.
The reason I'm saying this is because we're from Bavaria, right? The Free State of Bavaria. In other words, we could split off from Germany without having to go through the Constitution or anything like that. It was the Free State of Bavaria. Of course, they would never split off. It would be ludicrous. But I always say, yeah, we were from the Quebec of Germany.
I love the food in Germany. I
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah.
it is a very narrow lane. It's like meat and potatoes. It's a very very narrow lane. But I'll tell you what, man,
Yes.
they do it up right. So good.
Yeah. And it's actually like we marvel at that. It's quite affordable. If you know what restaurants to go to, uh, it's insanely cheap. Maybe cheap is not the right word. It's very good and it's very affordable. And then of
Affordable.
course the beer, right?
Yeah.
When we were there with the kids a few years back, we're going in. I'd have beer for lunch, of course, and then beer for supper again. And the kids, they'd want, I don't know, a 7 Up or whatever, more expensive than the beer.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
Yeah, for sure. Leslie Kelly says, "Hey Gunter, I loved my first trip to Germany last year. So amazing." Lindsay says, "So like poutine and maple syrup and tight pleather pants." I don't know what they're talking about. Sherilyn reminded me that she was also on that trip as
Right.
well.
That's right.
Yeah. So we had a really,
Yeah.
really super, super good time. Okay, so right now, sorry, and we sort of already kind of went through the family, but who is back on the farm full time and right now in terms of the family?
Right now, Fiona came back home
Yeah.
to the farm full time. I do farm with my brother-in-law and my sister as well. And so we share equipment, but we farm our two separate farms,
So
individual farms.
how do you figure that out with the sharing of equipment? Is there some pretty intense family barbecues on Sunday trying to figure that out?
I'm 6'4". He's 5'10".
Okay, you win. Yeah.
So whatever I say goes.
You get the
No,
combine first.
I get actually that's never been an issue. Oddly enough, I don't know. It started out in 2000. It was the harvest front. At harvest time, we had one combine. He has about the same amount of acres as we do. He had two combines, and he always seemed to have enough people working there, and I had trouble finding seasonal employees. He also runs a retail outlet, uh, and so I have to buy all my plant protection products there. And but he has those employees, And so it was just natural to harvest together and make use of his employees that were there anyways. And right during harvest, his agronomists weren't really that busy. And so we got to use one of his agronomists. Went from 3 combines down to 2, and then 5 years later, from 2 tractors, 2 drills, down to 1 tractor, 1 drill. And yeah, it was just natural. And you know what? We farm it as one big farm. So the topic of, well, which field are we going to go to next? Well, it's always the one field that's ready,
Mm.
right? It's always the field that's ready. Never been an issue.
That makes sense. That's
Yeah,
that's managing it like you from a business perspective and not from
yeah,
a selfish perspective.
yeah.
Question here from Jeft Bennett. I said I would read one of his questions at least. So I'll send Jeff a Real Agriculture hat. He asks, who would win in a fight between the chair of the wheat growers and the president of the wheat growers?
I would win,
So
hands down.
who are you fighting?
Daryl
Oh,
Fransoo.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Daryl was in a few tilts in junior hockey. He has
Well,
he
he
has a
was
little
an
bit of experience.
enforcer, absolutely. But I think he would just be afraid to hit me because of my, frail elderly seniority stage.
He would underestimate you. He would underestimate you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Actually, speaking of Daryl, question from Daryl. So definitely be sending Daryl a hat. He says, "What's the biggest challenge your farm faces right now, or do you think the industry as a whole?"
Oh man, Daryl,
I
really?
know he.
We're having fun here, and you come out with a with a question like that. The biggest challenge my farm, or I think Canadian farms are facing right now, is actually um, that we might lose the ability to make decisions that's right for my farm. That I, the farmer, am have to really, really look and listen to others that may or may not have a vested interest in agriculture and food production, and do what they want me to do, right or wrong, right? And so I think that's that's going to be tricky. It's a bit of a landmine out there. Yeah, bit of a minefield.
So your concern is about some of the possibility of increased regulation and things like that.
Absolutely. My parents tried to get away from that, and they got away from it. Came here, and if you want to talk sustainability, we're living proof. Like my dad in the mid 70s had off-farm jobs for three or four winters in a row. He hauled beer and he hauled bread, and just to make a go of it in Germany and grow the farm over there. And he wanted to get away from that, and came to Canada, and we built our farm from 800 acres, and now we farm just over 3,000 acres myself. And it, yeah, it's good. It would have been tough to do that in Germany, and
Hmm.
we can do it here. When Crystal and I got married, Crystal had a job in town, and like a week after we got married, she turned to me and she said, uh, can I quit my job? I just want to be on the farm. I said, sure, you can quit your job. It'd be nice to have that paycheck. But if you don't like it and you want to be on a farm and be a farm partner, farm wife, not go to town. I love that because that's how I grew up. My mom was always at home on the farm. I have a picture, well, mom and dad have that picture in their house in 1975. My mom holding a pitchfork like this. I'm right next to her, 10 years old, and next to me is our trainee from Florida. And it's a picture, a black and white picture in the barn. We raised bull cattle
Yeah.
indoors in Germany. And so, yeah, she was a farm wife. She was out there, pushing up feed to the cattle. We were expected to be out in the barn and help out on the farm. And so that's how I grew up. My mom never had an off-farm job. My dad had seasonal off-farm job for 4 years, and that's it.
A family farm in the truest sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, truest sense. Yeah.
And we were not a small farm in Germany. We just didn't own very much land, and Dad was really concerned. Again, others making decisions for him how he should farm, and he was really concerned, um, just keeping it and holding it all together. And coming to Canada, it was such a smart move,
And
such a good.
in Europe, if you look at Europe now, it's has a reputation, very well deserved, for regulation. Continually there is talk of not just sticking with the current regulation they have, but stepping up their game and maintaining their lead globally in regulations. When you look at Europe right now, I'm you have a lot of fond memories and have fondness for Germany because I was there with you. I saw it, but you sort of you shake your head and sort of said we just
I
don't
shake
want
my
to go in that
head.
direction.
No, we don't. Our village was 11 houses. 7 of them were farms, and 2 of them, incidentally, only full-time farmers. And the 2 full-time farmers immigrated to Canada. And today, there's not a single farmer left in my village. It's all rented out to one large farmer from, I don't know how far away he is. But Germany back in the 70s already and in the 80s had already policy to try and keep farmers on the land. And it didn't work. It didn't work and it doesn't work. Now they're trying to come in with their new Green Deal where 25% of their production has to be organic. It's ludicrous. See, it's decisions like that that I don't like if others make decisions like that for me.
I get it. Okay. I wanted to also ask you about what are you thinking about? Like, we've had a really kind of crazy year. 2020 has been, there's been a lot of ups and downs. We've had a fantastic commodity rally. You got to be
Yeah.
pretty optimistic about 2021, aren't you?
Yeah, and you know what, Shaun? West of Winnipeg here, well, I shouldn't say west of Winnipeg. In the Red River Valley, we had, it was a good, optimistic 2020. I think for the most part, most farmers had a good year here in Manitoba. There have definitely been pockets that have really struggled from either too wet or really too dry here in Manitoba in the valley. But overall, it was good. On our farm, we knocked it out of the park. We had a really good year. The and now the markets are they have me pumped for next year. Yeah, for sure. We've started selling 2021 crop, and I can't wait to add to sales. It's going to be good. Absolutely.
I like the optimism. Hey, question here from Jason, watching on YouTube. How do you decide on management decisions with many people with multiple people involved in the farm, like things like equipment purchases, crop varieties, etc.? How do you delegate those decisions?
Uh, well, right now it's just my brother-in-law and I who make those decisions, but we do listen to the people involved, like our guy. He's been with Tim for over 20 years,
Oh wow.
and so his input really matters. He's the main sprayer operator. We also do a lot of custom spraying, so he decides what sprayer to get because he has to be comfortable in it. He has to use it, and so we do listen to everyone that's involved on the farm. But at the moment, it's my brother-in-law and myself. Um, but since Fiona's come on board, she had to get her class 1, so she managed to get that before the big strict regulations came in.
Yeah.
Uh, she right from year 1, I had her on a drill and seed half the crop. She's been on a combine 1 year, full year, and this year she's done all the trucking. So,
Oh,
and she does the books now. She does all the books for my farm
do you?
because I want her to know everything on the farm.
Yeah, I was just going to
A
ask
to
you
Z.
that. That's a good place to, I think, for the younger generation coming into the farm. That's a really good place to get them really heavily involved early, I think, and exposed to, because I think there's a lot of farms where they kind of kept the younger generation away from some of the financials, focused on more of the operational things and maybe some of the other things going on, but they never had a clue how the farm was actually doing and what actually makes it financially tick. If you get the younger group involved in the financials, I think that's in this case, this example, it's a huge benefit to Fiona longer term.
Yeah, for sure. And Tim's daughter Kristen was full time on the farm this year. His younger daughter Kaylin is coming on next year as well. So we'll have three girls on our farm, and they will be fully immersed in it and fully engaged. And with Fiona, I tasked her with doing the books, making budgets, so she makes the budgets. We analyze them together. I involve her in selling the grain. We discuss that. Even if I decide out of the blue, I got to sell some grain because the price is too good. I get a text or whatever. I might pull the trigger, but immediately I let her know. I also let my brother-in-law know what I did, and vice versa. So we're always on the same page. We know when somebody sold something. And at what price. So she has lots of input that way. She will text me too and say, Dad, they have a special on. And so I just go, well, how much do we have left in inventory? What's our marketing plan look like? Are we getting oversold a little bit, or what should we do? So I throw her all those key questions. I ask her lots of questions, and then we discuss it. Absolutely.
Norm is suggesting that I think we really put you on the spot. We should have Crystal and Fiona on a panel with you. That that would keep you in check.
That would keep me in check, and I would be pretty quiet about what to say. But maybe, you know what? Yeah, for one of your live shows, the farm wives of these big movers and shakers, right?
Yeah.
Because I can talk a pretty good game, but who knows, right?
Well,
I'm the only one who knows whether it's right or not, right?
I know Crystal decently. I think I know who really runs that farm, Gunter. I do.
Absolutely.
Hey, Lyndsey wants to know, how is the kitchen reno going?
It's actually going a lot better than I thought it would. About 10 days ago, we were not in a good space, Crystal and I. And
There was real
it was not good,
we
but
we
it's
we
really
can
good now.
we can run a farm together, but the kitchen reno, that's what destroyed the marriage. It was, yeah, we
Yeah,
struggled after
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Hmm. What's the main disagreement on the kitchen reno? Where to put like the sink or something, or the
No, I think things were just coming together so fast, and like we had talked earlier, you just move a couple of cabinets around, take the peninsula off and put an island in and a new countertop, you're good to go.
mm,
But we've almost evolved to a bumper to bumper teardown of the house, right? That's where but it's all good, under control. We can actually live in the kitchen already,
yeah, I think
so
they call
we're
that
we're,
scope
we're good.
creep. It's called scope creep, where you start with like a little
Yeah,
part of the house, and all of a sudden you're like in the
yeah.
living room reno. And hey, while we got the contractor here, let's fix the
Might
thing
as
in the
well.
basement. Like, you know what? Like, we'll just move it to a hotel for 6 months. We're good. It's,
Yeah,
hey, crop
yeah.
prices are up. Let's let her buck.
Oh man.
Hey, today on the Farmer Rapid Fire and RealAg Radio, my question to the farmers was all this. It has to do with family farm business meetings, and we've talked a little bit about your family operation. Do you have regularly scheduled family farm business meetings where you really hone in on some of the business stuff, or is it a little bit more irregular?
No, I'd say it's irregular. No, we don't hone in. We don't have scheduled business meetings, but we do. We talk farming all the time. I don't. I don't keep anything from Crystal. And now with Fiona here at home, I mean, it's farming 24 hours a day almost. Like every waking moment, we just talk farming. And so if Crystal hears something that's brand new, and she goes, "Hey, whoa, my spidey senses are tingling, and it's not good." What do you mean new combine? What do you mean we're trading tractor? Where is this going? So we're it's all good. And I'm 55, and so Crystal's really been pushing me on the farm succession. So
Oh.
we're not knee deep, we're like waist deep into farm succession. Yeah, and it's you know what? I don't mind. I need that push, and it's okay for me to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And shit, that light's coming at me pretty fast.
Yeah,
But I don't want to be. I love farming, but I don't want to be farming at 75.
so
I would say
what do you want to be doing? Like
not
you
happening.
just said that farming was your entire life. Is there like
Yeah,
hobbies or things like that, or what's your aspiration there?
I will always be somewhat involved in the farm, but by not farming is I want to be out of the big decision making
Mm.
probably before I'm 65. Before I'm 65. Yeah.
You want
Like,
to show up. You want to. I know you. I see. I can see this. You want to show up at harvest and be like the combine driver.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah,
see.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's you know what? Ever since Fiona's here and this year Kristen as well, I haven't serviced the combine. It's great. I am one of the combine operators, and I love it. The two girls take care of it. We haven't had major breakdowns, so they're doing a good job. It's really good.
Cool stuff.
So things like that. It's I don't want to make those big decisions. I've done it for since '84, since '83.
Yeah.
So that's enough.
But Gunther, there's a lot of farmers when they retire, like when they do that succession plan, they retire. They think it's over. Like they don't actually enjoy that sort of period of participating in the farm and helping and watching that younger generation flourish and build the farm into something even greater, right? It's kind of I think it's kind of a really rewarding time when you think about
Yeah,
it from
you're
the
right. My dad did the same thing. When I graduated from university, he came home, he threw the books at me. And I've been doing books since I left university. And I want to be the same way. I don't want to do things that I don't appreciate or I appreciate them, but that I kind of, oh yeah, we got to do the books, got
yeah.
to be on top of the books. And so it's yeah, Fiona, it's the same thing, marketing, everything. I want her to make decisions, run them past me, and
Yeah.
take over the farm.
Hey,
Yeah,
question here.
absolutely.
Question here from John Kowalchuk. You doing anything different on your farm in 2021? New crops, new practice, new equipment?
No, no, we're staying the course, and so by that I mean we are the last 5 years we've grown canola, soybeans, oats, and wheat, and that rotation, and it's worked really well for us. We all in the back of our mind, there's always sunflowers kicking around, but we haven't pulled the trigger on them because the last 2 years that we had sunflowers, we burnt the combines both years, so it's kind of backed off of that. New practice, we're dabbling more into zero till and minimum till, and so minimum till has been for a long time, but we've got a fair number of acres in zero till. We had to smooth out some ruts this year, so there was some tillage. I like it. New equipment, I'd like a new drill to give me more flexibility on variable rate. Fertilizer placement, mid-row, in-furrow, and combinations thereof. We use liquid nitrogen and dry um, starter fertilizer, and so I'd like to be able to reroute them several different ways. So but it's not quite in the cards because our 10-year-old drill gave us a bumper crop, right? So sometimes you go, do you want to spend $500,000 to gain? I don't know. I don't know what we would gain.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of that, Ontario Ag Guy asked the question, do you run mainly newer or older equipment?
Our oldest tractor is a 2004 and it has over 7,000 hours. Our newest tractor, same horsepower, main tractor, is a 2015 with 2,700 hours and lots of little problems. I don't want to trade the old one ever because it's bailed me out 2 years in a row from the new one.
Oh,
It
really?
takes about an hour to move all the technology over, and then we're seeding again, and it's never let us down. The old girl, but the new ones, eesh.
It's funny
So
how that works.
it is.
It,
Combines were usually between 1 and 4 or 5 years old
hmm,
before we trade.
yeah.
And then we have a pile of old trucks. So
Who doesn't? Of course,
yeah, exactly.
that's like a staple. You got to have that. Hey,
Yeah.
Gunther, this has been a ton of fun. I've got many. We better get some more boxes. I've got a lot of hats to give away. I appreciate everybody that had questions and comments for today's show. Some serious ones, some lighthearted ones. That's kind of what makes this show really, really special. And Gunter, I really appreciate you joining me here today. Your family farm story is so cool, and you guys are doing a great job. You are one of the leaders in our industry, and I appreciate you joining us here today on RealAg Live.
Thanks, Shaun. Always my pleasure.
Tomorrow on RealAg Live, we're going to talk to Clint Yerke from the Canola Council of Canada about some canola agronomic stuff. Make sure you tune in to RealAg Radio on Rural Radio 147 this afternoon at 4:30 Eastern. We are going to have our Farmer Rapid Fire. We got farmers from Ontario to British Columbia and everywhere in between. And tomorrow on RealAg Radio, I was trying to figure which promo I was reading. RealAg Radio, we're also going to have the RealAg Issues panel, Lyndsey Smith, Kelvin Hepner, and Megan Murdoch. Thanks to everybody that participated in today's show. And of course, you can download the podcast if you missed any of it. Thank you very much for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Live. See you again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.